Welcome to the Simply for Someone podcast. I'm your host, Brielle. Each episode is simply for someone, and I'm confident that's you. Thanks for listening.
Experience the beauty of Synergy at Synergy Skin Studio. We're thrilled to announce our partnership with the Simply for Someone podcast, where beauty meets wisdom, brought to you by Synergy Skin Studio. Discover the secret to radiant skin. Visit us today. Synergy Skin Studio, proud sponsor of Simply for Someone podcast. Beauty begins here.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Simply for Someone podcast. This is your host, Brielle. I am so thankful you're here. Thank you so much for listening and supporting me. It means more to me than you will ever know. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And happy almost Halloween. I made a little pumpkin. My cousin and my boyfriend and I painted pumpkins tonight. And I thought, why not share this with you guys? So let me know your thoughts on my pumpkin. This is my first time ever painting a pumpkin. So of my recollection, maybe I have years and years and years ago, but I do not remember it if I have. So to my recollection, this is my first time. Today, I wanted to talk about relationships. Of course, the big thing that we all love to talk about. More specifically, talking about how social media plays a really big role in modern dating. I wanted to talk about how social media has made finding relationships seemingly easier, right? Like, oh, I can just jump online and swipe and scroll and be able to find a partner or somebody who is somewhat interested in me being anyone. And I think that there is some benefit to that, although I do think that there is a really big risk and a harm to our society as a whole with this being in place, given that a lot of times we can feel very replaceable and it's very easy to not give people a chance, both as friends or as romantic partners, because a lot of what we do is now based on how we look. Like if I'm swiping like, oh, I don't like that this person's one brow is slightly higher than the other, next, or I don't like the way that this person's smile isn't perfectly white, next. Like it's so easy to become so much more superficial. And I'm not saying that everybody is that way or that it's that specific circumstance that you would choose or not choose somebody. But I think it is way more likely in today's society that we are a little bit more superficial when we're first meeting people than how it would have been even 10, 20 years ago. And I think that there's a real harm to that because not only do we feel like people are replaceable in our own lives, but that we are replaceable in other people's lives, that people are constantly feeling like they're walking on eggshells in relationships, trying not to upset somebody or offend somebody because they could be ghosted or completely cut out of somebody's life over something very insignificant in the long run. And I think that that's very dangerous because, especially when you're looking at friendships and people that you want to have in your life for the long term, you don't want to just cut somebody off because you have one miscommunication, right? And social media is teaching us, well, we can just block them. We can just delete them like they never existed. And that is just not healthy for any of us. I feel like it can create this hyper independence of, I don't need anybody. Like you're only here because I want you. And that is just not a good thing for anybody. And so I think in part to that, social media has also contributed to having unrealistic expectations. We go on social media and we're expected to look the way that models look, or we see only the highlight reel of people's lives, that one business owner that's a multimillionaire now. And we're seeing the 10 seconds of their last 3 days and how they made a bunch of money or they went on this really fun, nice trip. And that is just not realistic for most of us. Most of us are working all the time. Most of us have bills and families and different things like that that occupy our time and our finances, that maybe that wouldn't be a reality for you, or me or anybody. And I think it's really dangerous because we don't know what I call the backside of the blessing, right? That, yeah, they have that blessing, but what's the backside of that? Because the reality is everybody has baggage, everybody has problems. And on social media, it's very unlikely that somebody's going to go on there and be like, I'm addicted to porn, or I cheat on my wife, or I am a cruel friend when I'm angry, right? Like, it's so unlikely that somebody's going to go online and publicly share that information. It's a lot easier to publicly go online and say, I just bought my first home. Like, I just built a business. I just got into a new relationship, right? Like, it's so much easier to share our highlight reel because we want to be liked. Deep down, every single human wants to be loved. They want to be known. They want to be deeply cared for and accepted for who they are and who they were created to be. And as you should be. There is nothing wrong with having a desire to be loved or wanted or known or deeply cared for or acknowledged and accepted for the person that you truly are. That is a beautiful thing. And we are meant to be in community. I say this all the time. We are meant to have friends. We are meant to live our life with other people. So there's nothing wrong with having those desires. But how we go about finding people and keeping people is where the waters can get a little rocky, right? And that's just not ideal. So I wanted to talk about how our expectations play a role in our decision making when finding and maintaining relationships. I feel like a lot of times, and I'm speaking to you women because I am a woman and I have personally dealt with this, but having unrealistic expectations on friends, family, and especially in dating, like new dating, like you're going on a first date and you see this person online and or you meet them in person so you don't know that much about them but you agree to go on a date because you want to get to know them more, and the first questions in your mind are, what do they look like? How much money do they make? Will they take care of me? Are they able to financially support me? Like, do they have ambition? Do they have big goals? And if that person within that first date can express that they have all these things that you want, you're like, okay, next, like there's somebody else, when you could be passing up a blessing before it even begins because you haven't taken the time to get to know that person. What if they were 10 weeks away or a year away or 2 years away from starting that big business where they were going to make millions? They were going to be able to financially provide for you or your future family, or they were able to accomplish this huge goal that they had, right? And it's so easy to get ahead of ourselves and start worrying about the future. Well, what if they can't? What if this doesn't work out? What if that doesn't work out? And get in your head. And that is so damaging. And so I just wanted to talk about this and like put out the warning, like obviously have standards, have expectations. Do not settle for somebody that is not going to treat you well, but rather than looking for money and a house and having the status or whatever it is, fill in the blank, the swag, the clothing, whatever it is that you're looking for, that could be potentially superficial because we all know money comes and goes. That is just a fact in life. No person was born a millionaire and stays a millionaire their entire life. And if they were, props to you, but you are a very unlikely breed. And we respect and love you for that, but it's not very likely for the average human. And so I'm speaking to most people who are living the human experience and they're having a very normal upbringing to an extent, right? Of having to work for everything and go through the different phases of life to accomplish their goals. And a lot of us can have a hard time when we're looking for partners. I have conversations like this with my girlfriends all the time where they're like, well, he just like didn't have, like, he wasn't exactly the height I wanted. Like, he was just like a little shorter, or he didn't have as much hair as I wanted, or like his eyes weren't the right color. And it's like, why are we focusing on that? Like, yes, I understand you can't change somebody's eye color, but is that going to make or break a relationship for you? And if it is, like, maybe look internally and say, "Hey, am I being superficial in this moment?" And if that's the only thing that's important to you in a relationship and you only want a nice little piece of arm candy, by all means do your thing, girlfriend. Like, that, more power to you. But if you're looking for a deep, meaningful connection and you want a high value man, you're going to have to look past certain things because everybody has baggage. And red flags exist. It's such a trending topic right now. I feel like me and my girlfriends jokingly will be talking. We're like, oh, red flag, like red flag. That's not cute, right? Jokingly, of course. And obviously there are certain things that are red flags, right? Like cheating, abuse, like those things are not okay, especially if you've already established that you're both wanting to pursue each other and be in a committed relationship. But I'm talking about things like maybe not being in a perfect financial state when you meet them, not in like excruciatingly painful debt, right? But hey, like I have this job and my goal is to be here in a year, but I'm not there yet. Like if somebody's not there, is that worth completely throwing away a deep and meaningful connection that you could have, right? And I think there's a backside of that too for men where they have these unrealistic expectations of, and I was talking about this with my boyfriend. I asked him because I was like, obviously, I have my thoughts as a female, but from a male perspective, like, what do you feel like men oftentimes struggle with when they're finding a potential, finding a potential partner or when they're looking for a partner? Like, what is something that people can struggle with? And he was talking about how men can oftentimes have this unrealistic expectation that they're going to be handed a wife. Like the minute you meet them, they want you to do everything. They want you to be ready to cook the meals and do the dishes and also provide financially and be able to be a mother, right? Like we're playing superwoman 24/7. And obviously that's not realistic. There is a reality if you're pregnant, you cannot be working the day after you give birth. Like nobody can do that. And like anybody, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. If he's going to work 9 to 5 and you're going to work 9 to 5, you have the same few hours that you're able to put towards whatever it is you choose to put towards, right? And so I don't want this to feel like an attack on women. It's definitely not that. Men have their struggles too, but I just wanted to talk about this because I think this is such a real thing where men and women were all struggling with having these unrealistic expectations. And then we're getting on social media or dating apps and we're just swiping and we're like, no, like because of this one little thing, or oh, like you like country music, well I like R&B. And it's like, is of course, like you want to have similar taste in music, that's nice, right? But is that a requirement? Isn't it more important to have someone who has good integrity and is honest and is kind and is loving and is loyal, right? And all of those things. Like if you could have someone who has all of that, but maybe they're an inch shorter than you wanted. For me, I would way rather choose the person who is an inch shorter and had all those things than somebody who has had the money, the looks, the status, all of that, but they're not loyal, they're dishonest, they cheat on you, they make you cry yourself to sleep. I've been there. Like I have dated, obviously now the best man ever. I love my boyfriend, but before that, I'd had some really horrible relationships. I had been with people who were dishonest, disloyal, cruel, straight up cruel, made me cry myself to sleep, not kind, not friendly, not honest about many things. And it's just not worth it. Like, I've been with somebody who had a lot of money before, and it was like, cool. Yeah, like this nice steak dinner's cool. But now I have to go to sleep wondering who the other girl is that you're doing the same thing for tomorrow. And that for me, like, my peace is so much more valuable than being able to eat a nice steak dinner. So, just food for thought. Something I wanted to put out there is let's focus on deeper connections, because I really do feel like right now is a season for so many people where we all want fruitful relationships. We want more for ourselves. We want better jobs, more money, better relationships, all the things, better health. And one of the really good ways to get there is having a good support system and having good people in your life, having a good romantic partner, having friends that are supportive and encouraging and kind and loyal and honest and uplifting. These are the things that we need when we truly break down all of the distractions of social media, dating apps, all the things the world can throw at us, bills, this, that, job, status, all of it. When we strip all of that away, all of us are in the human experience and all of us need to feel loved and supported by the people around us. And so I just challenge you to really think about the way that you're approaching when you're first meeting people and the way that you're seeking and maybe where you're seeking, right? I'm not saying I'm not hating on dating apps at all by any means, but maybe if you're constantly trying the same strategies, maybe try other ways to meet people. And I think you'd be pleasantly surprised of who you meet and how you are perceived by other people when you are very honest and vulnerable about what your desires are, and to also get clear with yourself about what you want. And don't be afraid to speak that and voice that and be firm in that. Boundaries are the most loving thing that you can provide to any relationship in your life, is to be honest, be vulnerable, and have boundaries. Because if that person truly is not for you, you know, thank you so much. See ya. on to the next. Like, there is going to be somebody else who will love you and treat you right, but it's not worth trying to constantly like get the attention and approval of all of these people if they're not meant for you. If someone's meant for you, they're going to find you, and you just have to be your kind, wonderful, authentic self, and the right people are going to find you. And so I just encourage you to really think about the way that you're approaching this, where you're going to find it, and to always be your authentic self. And I want to encourage all men and women who are genuinely looking for a high value man or woman as a partner or as friends. Like, it's totally okay to want that. Like, don't feel like because the society has this hookup culture and this fast lifestyle that you have to abide by that. If you are someone who wants two or one best friend and one amazing partner because quality is more important than quantity for you, do that. Like, fearlessly be yourself, because that is so amazing. And I honor that so much. I think that's such a beautiful thing when someone can be honest about who they are and show up that way. And I think even those people that were a part of your life are going to magically trickle back in and be like, dang, you're so amazing. You're so wonderful. And you're like, right, I always have been. But now I'm clear on who I am and I'm sticking to that. And having self-respect is so sexy. So thank you so much for listening. Short, digestible episode today, but I just wanted to get that out and have you guys think about how you're approaching new connections in your life. If you have questions, as always, please contact me. Love hearing from all of you, love talking with all of you, and happy Halloween. And I will talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for listening. Bye. Hi, friends. Thanks so much for listening to my podcast, Simply for Someone. I sincerely appreciate you supporting me. I would deeply appreciate it if you took a moment to share this episode with someone close to you. I hope this episode was simply for you. Get to know me more by subscribing to the podcast page and following the podcast on all social media platforms at Simply for Someone Podcast. You can also get to know me on my personal social media pages at The Brielle Fisher. Thanks so much, and until next episode.